time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and this is the Rider Dynasty podcast. Tonight, we blew the Rider Dynasty horn and assembled the news team for a 2-round SuperFlex PPR mock draft. Now joining us for that draft, Big Daddy Don Detweiler. Don, you preached that the Steelers would go running back early and then draft as blockers. Well, Najee went at 23, followed by Freiermuth, Green, and Moore. How happy are you?
I'm ecstatic. I mean, I really didn't think that Najee was going to end up at 24 to the Steelers. I was afraid that the Jets or possibly the Cardinals or Dolphins would snipe him, and the fact that he was there for them was very exciting. You could tell and the Steelers had the same opinion, too, because there was zero hesitation, and they didn't mess around. They went right to the podium and turned in the pick instantly. I thought that Harris was exactly everything you would want in a Steeler running back. And Freiermuth in the second, I was surprised that they went with him in the second. I was surprised he was there. I think they were a little bit too, because it seemed like, again, they ran to the podium. A classic tight end is something that the Steelers haven't had since Heath Miller, and I think they're very happy to try and do that.
Fantastic. Kyle, what about the Patriots?
Yeah, I was really hoping they would go for some wide receivers earlier than the 7th round. Overall, I don't hate their draft. The Stevenson pick was an interesting add, another plotter in their backfield, but we'll see what they can do. Bill B likes to punch it in at the goal line, and now he'll have about 37 options to do that with.
Now, joining us from the depths of the writer room, and Don, Kyle, remind me to put another lock on that door. Brendan, talk to me about Buffalo.
So the Bills didn't really do anything interesting as far as your fantasy team. The only offensive skill player we selected on any of the 3 days of this draft was Marquez Stevenson, wide receiver out of Houston, round 6, pick 203. This guy really doesn't factor in to be a target in your rookie drafts. He's got speed for days. Maybe he'll return a couple. I'm guessing he's going to be our kick return guy. But who knows? We've got a couple receivers that are getting up there in age, so maybe in a year or so he can make an impact.
Awesome. Kit, what about the G-Men?
So Dave Gettleman did the thing everyone said Dave Gettleman would never do. He traded back. He got us an extra first. I have to say, not to be unloyal for a second there, I am a Justin Fields truther, so I was like, maybe it's the end of the Daniel Jones era, and that's okay. But they didn't go in that direction. I don't love the Tony pick, but, one of those guys that NFL evaluators know better than us sort of Dynasty Twitter evaluators do. And so then getting Ojulari in the second felt like he was someone who fell because of injury. So overall, happy with what it went. We got that extra first in our back pocket. DJ has another weapon.
Fantastic. Rob, what's going on up north?
Ooh. Apparently, the latest news is that Aaron Rodgers wants our GM gone, which after this draft and last year's draft, I also want him gone. So we're in full agreement there.
All right. That pretty much sums up your feelings, right? Also joining us is Matthew. Matthew, how do you feel about the Cowboys draft?
Well, so Cowboys obviously didn't have any fantasy relevant players really, unless you play IDP, but as a Cowboys fan, I love the draft. They went heavy on the defense, so hopefully that improves some. At the very least, it's hard to not improve when you have the worst defense in team history. So things are looking up in Cowboys land.
All right. Well, before we get into tonight's topic, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at Rider Dynasty. And check out our website, rideordynasty.com, for all of our articles. Now, Matthew and Kyle actually are launching a new podcast. Kyle, why don't you tell the riders about the new podcast?
Yeah, so last year I started the Next Man Up injury report in a written format. It was a weekly article that came out. And this year, Matthew and another one of our writers, Eric Creel, are joining me, and we're going to be the three-headed horsemen of the Next Man Up Injury Podcast. So it'll be a weekly injury report and podcast edition, and I am thrilled to have them along. I'm a nurse. Matthew is an athletic trainer, and Eric is a physical therapist, so you're kind of going to get 3 different viewpoints on injuries and how they relate to fantasy, and we're just super excited to get after it this fall.
Yeah, we're so excited that you are launching the pod. I know I'm going to be tuning in because I know nothing about injuries. There's no such thing as injury prone.
That's right.
And there's no such thing as a sports hernia.
Well, you know.
Right? No, you guys weren't around for Nick, were you?
No, that was before our time.
Oh, look at you guys, a bunch of youngins. All right. So, for tonight's draft, you gentlemen still don't know who's picking in which order. The rules for the draft, you have 2 minutes per pick. There's only 6 of you, so you're going to have to pick twice per round. It's a SuperFlex draft, not tight end premium, PPR. Any questions, gentlemen? All right, now for the draft order, gentlemen. Matthew Walters, followed by Rob. Coming in at third is Kit, followed by Kyle, Brendan, and picking last is Don. All right, gentlemen, let's kick off round 1, Superflex PPR. Matthew, who are you going with?
All right, well, I'll try to talk through this. I'm sure it's going to come as no surprises to anyone. But I'll talk through the options. So obviously Trey Lance looks great, landing at 49ers. Should be a highly sought after asset in Superflex leagues. Also, I love Justin Fields' spot with the Bears. But obviously I'm going to stick with the 101 that seems like he's been the 101 for 3 years now, and go Trevor Lawrence with the Jags. He's going to start right away. He has a few weapons, including a running back that was drafted with him that I won't get too much into here because he might be drafted later. And, you know, there's quite a few kind of under the radar talented receivers there that he's going to be throwing to. So Trevor Lawrence at the 101.
Kyle, how do you feel about Trevor Lawrence going 1-1? Are you on board with that pick?
Oh, 100%. I have the 101 in a couple leagues this year, and I honestly do not see myself going anywhere else unless something awful happened, and I'm knocking on wood as I say that.
Well, Trevor Lawrence is off the board. Rob, where are we going with pick number 2?
Just like Matthew was talking about, I really like where Trey Lance ended up in the 49ers, and I also really like Justin Fields in Chicago. There's a small question mark on both of them for me. Trey Lance, is he going to start right away? He doesn't have a whole lot of college experience. Justin Fields, I've got a lot of question marks about his coaching, and I would rather take the risk on Kyle Shanahan's offense, which is proven. I think Trey Lance is going to be a stud, even if I have to wait half a season for him to start, a full season to start. So I'm taking Trey Lance here at number 2. Also, Trey Lance just has so many better weapons than Justin Fields is going to get in Chicago right off the bat. He's got the second best tight end in the league in George Kittle. He's got 2 up-and-coming receivers in Deebo Samuel, Ayuk. He's got an elite running game that's going to open things up for him for his running as well. I love the scheme fit here.
Fantastic. So Trey Lance goes number 2 to Rob. Brendan, are you on board with that?
I'm not going to fault anybody for taking Trey Lance number 2. There is one guy who I would take ahead of him here in this spot. However, we are playing Dynasty. This isn't redraft, so I wouldn't worry about Jimmy G starting for any number of games. Like Rob said, he's in just about the exact perfect position, landing spot with the weapons around him, the play caller, the run game, the offensive line. I don't hate this pick at all.
Fantastic. Kit coming in with pick number 3. Where are you going?
Yeah, so it's funny, I have 102 in 2 of my most important leagues, and I am a Justin Fields truther, and so I had been absolutely locked in. It doesn't matter if he falls, it's still fine. But I have to say, I'm starting to reconsider in the last couple days. I think Rob's direction there of just the upside of the elite prospect that Trey Lance has athletically and arm strength wise, paired with Shanahan, is great. I similarly have a lot of concerns about the Bears, but I'm just confident enough that Justin Fields is good, that he's my pick at 3. It is in the range now where if I was truly set at quarterback, I would consider picking Najee Harris there. Maybe more a little later, but just because I like Fields. But I could see the argument that, he got drafted into the ideal situation. Well, we could debate that with their line, but they're trying to improve that. It starts to become an argument to me at 3. But Fields has been my guy, is my guy. I'm going with it.
Don, where are you at with Justin Fields at number 3?
You know what? I like Fields a lot. The problem with Fields is the Chicago situation. I mean, if Matt Nagy is out, then you're already flipping the deck on this poor guy with a new offense, new offensive coordinator, new everything. Also, his best receiver by a country mile is on a 1-year franchise tender. They definitely want to run the ball, which is great for Fields. He's in a great situation that he doesn't have to start immediately. So, I mean, the value is absolutely there. But at this point, I think I like a Wilson a little better than I like Fields, simply because there's going to be a longer period of continuity in terms of his weapons, in terms of the scheme and coaching, that you're not going to try and upset the apple cart on a new quarterback.
All right, Kyle, coming in at the 4th pick, what direction are you going in?
Yeah, at number 4 here, I am going to buck the trend and hop out of the QB market. We're going to go right next door to the running backs. There is, in my opinion, an obvious tier gap between the ones that have been drafted, between Najee and the rest. I'm taking Najee Harris here. My logic is, personally, I'm not as high on Zach Wilson as others have been. Lawrence, Lance, Fields were the top 3 for me, with a small gap down to Wilson. And personally, the wide receiver position has a lot more depth than the running back position to me. So I want to go for that top tier running back, take that in a Steelers offense that is going to just feed him the rock, especially early in his career. I feel like Najee's a home run.
Matthew, is Najee your top running back in this draft?
He's kind of tied as the top. I'm definitely not arguing this pick, though. If it was me, I probably would go Najee there. I think he's probably in one of the better positions of the rookie running backs. He's going to be highly sought after. I know there's some people worrying about his age a little bit, but who cares? The running back, you're only banking on that first contract anyway. Anything after that's just gravy. So go ahead and take that running back, and guess what? If you want to flip him later for multiple firsts, then do it.
All right, put him on the board. Brendan, pick number 5.
Pick number 5. I am also going to buck the trend a little bit here and pass over a guy who will probably be taken, at the latest at this spot in most drafts, but not in this one. I am going to go with Kyle Pitts, new tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. He is the biggest unicorn in this draft and the biggest unicorn that we've seen in many, many drafts at really any position. I know people talk about Trevor Lawrence being this generational QB prospect, but Kyle Pitts is the same thing for tight ends. And if you can find Travis Kelce or a Gronk or a Kittle, Darren Waller, one of those guys, you do it. He can line up anywhere. He's a mismatch at any defensive position. I'm taking Kyle Pitts, so I'm going to have Kyle Pitts on my team for the next decade, and I'm going to love it.
All right. So, Rob, they keep saying that Kyle Pitts is a unicorn. Now, unicorns are extinct, so they obviously weren't very healthy animals. Is this a good comparison for Kyle Pitts? A mythical dead creature?
I'm not really sure where to take that. Kyle Pitts is certainly a generational talent. Whether he's a mythical dead creature leaves I'm not sure I can go that far. He's clearly the tight end 1 in this class. I mean, we barely talk about Pat Freiermuth in any other draft class. I think he might sneak in the first round. He's the first tight end off the board. It's just the gap between what the normal tight end 1 every year is and Kyle Pitts is ridiculous.
I would say...
Well, you're on board.
Sorry. Don't know if we're not doing this, but I was going to say I do have some concerns about Kyle Pitts. Partially the way Arthur Smith frankly underused Jonnu. It seemed like, where he was previously with the Titans. there's enough surrounding talent that he should be able to be schemed to be open, even if he doesn't need to scheme to be open. But I think I've also, just looking back, have felt burnt by Eric Ebron and other types of tight ends that have like been billed this way and don't deliver. I hear that Pitts is the exception, but it's in my mind a little bit.
The reason there's a rule is because there's an exception every once in a while. I don't know if Pitts is the exception, but I'm a little skeptical myself. I had 1-1 in a SuperFlex rookie Devi depleted draft this afternoon, and I actually traded out of the 1-1 where Pitts was still available and took Wilson at 2. So I'm a little skeptical myself. But moving on to pick number 6, the midway point of round 1. Mr. Detweiler, which direction are you going?
6 and 7 back to back. This is great. I love having the handcuff here. We're going to start with Jamar Chase. Phenomenal talent, absolute game breaker with a quarterback he's already familiar with in an offense that's going to do absolutely everything to get him the ball. So there's opportunity, there's talent around him, and I love the player. I love the fit. It's just a perfect set. That's going to be a quality wide receiver for your team for a very long time, especially PPR. The guy's not just a one-trick pony. He's not going to catch you 3. He's going to catch you 6 a week. So I'm very high on Chase.
All right, so Jamar Chase goes at 6. Kit, is Jamar Chase going at the right spot here? I mean, it is PPR. Should he go ahead of Kyle Pitts?
I think he's still going a little early for me. I don't want to say I've soured on Jamar Chase, because Jamar Chase is awesome, but he went from someone that I viewed as kind of a couple months ago when the season ended, when the hype started building, as a can't miss guy, and now I think of him as a gonna be really solid no matter what guy. But just positional scarcity. We're in Superflex. Zach Wilson went 2. I have some concerns about Zach Wilson's size and kind of looking like a douche, but otherwise, I think he's just a great value there. I would have gone in a different direction, but a lot of that is just positional value. If you believe in Chase as the prospect, as a lot of people do, perfectly defensible to grab him here.
All right, to recap the top half of the first round, we had Trevor Lawrence, followed by Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Najee Harris went 4, followed by Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase. Don, the second of your back-to-back picks. You have 7. What direction are you going in?
It's back to the quarterback realm, and it's Zach Wilson time here. They've done so much to try and do everything that they didn't do for Sam. So it's just phenomenal. The 2 first-round offensive linemen between last year and this year, and then now doing everything they can to get him weapons. I love the addition of Moore in the second round. That was phenomenal. He's got talent at every wide receiver position at every level of the field now, and I think he's just in a phenomenal place to be successful now. And it's a stable coaching environment, a stable GM situation, at least as stable as the Jets ever are. So, yeah, for me, this is a no-brainer at this point, especially with the other wide receivers landing in positions where the top guys all have questions surrounding them entirely because of where they landed.
Matthew, now that Wilson has finally gone off the board, do you think these QBs are in the right order?
In the right order, personally, I would have gone Justin Fields over Trey Lance. That's just my personal, but I mean, I'm not going to argue about the order with them. It's a little early for Zach Wilson to me. There's a couple running backs that I kind of like, and I'm not as high on Zach Wilson as I know some other people at RoD Dynasty are, but that's just my personal belief.
All right, Brendan, number 8. Which direction are we going?
I am going to take the second running back off the board here. Not the second running back off the NFL board, but Javonte Williams, who went in the second round out of UNC to the Broncos. Javonte reminds me a little bit of Nick Chubb, and nobody in that backfield currently out there in Denver scares me. Melvin Gordon's getting up there in age, and Phillip Lindsay, falls down if you just blow at him a little bit. So I think they're going to have to put up points to keep up with some teams in their division. Obviously, the Chiefs, Herbert and that, rising offense. And then the Raiders were about a top 10 offense last year, surprisingly. So they're definitely going to have to put up points. This is a make it or break it year for Drew Lock. If he doesn't make it, though, I don't think they stick with Teddy B next year. I think they go rookie quarterback, but there's going to be a lot of points to be scored in that offense, and I think he's going to be the bell cow there.
Rob Mongol, Javonte Williams. Are we that scared of Melvin Gordon? Do you think that could really hurt his value?
I'm a big Melvin Gordon fan, but I think this is the right pick here. Melvin Gordon's on a 1-year rental. He's about to be a free agent. You've got Mike Boone as your running back 3 now, who was a playoff hero 2 years ago, but that's about it. He's just a guy. He's a great third-string running back. There's no one else in that room after this season that's going to compete with touches with Javonte.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was a huge fan of Lindsey. Hopefully he gets to do something over in Houston now. Denver, for some reason, just didn't like the kid. All right, coming in at number 9, Kyle, you are on the clock.
I'm going to be completely honest. I've got about 4 different routes that I'm thinking about with this pick. And usually when I'm in that kind of spot, I will look for options to trade down. Now, obviously, we're not doing trades in this draft, but just a line of thought for you to consider in your drafts. At running back, I would be between Kenneth Gainwell and Travis Etienne here. Both of their landing spots are likely going to see them in timeshares with other fairly talented backs. So I'm going to look more at wide receiver. I've got 2 that come to mind for me. It's between Rashad Bateman with the Ravens and Jalen Waddle with the Dolphins. Now, I really liked Waddle in college. He's pairing back up with his college quarterback Tua. But for me, it's going to be Rashad Bateman here. I like where he landed with the Ravens. They don't have a true alpha wide receiver. Hollywood Brown's there, but he's not a wide receiver 1. He's just not going to do it for them. They need a guy that can be the dog, and I think it's going to be Bateman.
Kit, is this finally the wide receiver who breaks through with Lamar Jackson?
Maybe. Sure. He does the things that I think they need, right? Hollywood should be able to spread things out by breaking down field. Andrews is great at that seam, kind of medium, deep routes. Bateman, based on what I understand about his skills, is really just a technician, right? So there should be lots of space for him to work, run those awesome routes, become open in the medium, slant type of area, and be a good safety valve for Lamar. Now, how much that translates to fantasy production, given their volume of rushing, given that there are those other guys who maybe aren't spectacular but are there, I don't know. One question I had for Kyle, just because I didn't hear the name mentioned, are you just lower on Devonta Smith's talent, or is the Eagles landing spot part of the reason why he wasn't even a name you brought up?
I more like the Ravens or Dolphins offensive prospects moving forward in the next couple of years, thinking past just this next year. I'm not sure what Philadelphia's quarterback situation is going to look 2, 3, 4 years down the road. I don't have anything against Devonta Smith. I've actually been one of the people that's kind of been hyping him up, telling people that BMI is a stupid thing to worry about. So he is one that I considered, but not quite yet.
Kyle, could you have a talk with my personal physician?
Sure. What's up? Think that's BMI.
My
going
BMI.
in the wrong way, JJ.
My BMI.
Are you a professional athlete?
All right, number 10. Kit, you are up.
All right, so I had a couple considerations here. I think before the draft, I had pretty clearly defined myself as having a top 11 as a tier. And that seems to have gotten fuzzier here because the guys who I do have at the top, and I'll just be transparent, right? Mac, still a starting quarterback or drafted to be one. Etienne was first round running back, the nice newly overhauled offense. And Devonta Smith, who I still just really, really like. I'm going to take Etienne. I know that because James Robinson's there, it's going to mean that he's going to have a little bit less of a ceiling. But I think the fact that they went ahead and drafted him in the first round, the fact that like all Urban Meyer can say in every interview is speed, 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 speed. The fact that he's with, his running mate in college who was comfortable dropping off to him. It definitely wasn't ideal of a landing spot. I definitely think he's unlikely to get 250 carries at least for a while. But the upside, the explosion of the way he plays, I do have some concern with how he plays. But if they're going to use him that way, where they get him out in space, get him the ball, and let him go, that seems like a really nice fit for his skill set still. Hey, running backs at the end of the first is kind of a rarity. So I'm with it.
Don, how badly is James Robinson hurt by this addition?
James Robinson will decline simply because the volume of touches just won't be there. But he was already getting a over normal volume of touches, and the addition of Carlos Hyde was going to chip in anyway. What this is going to do is just take his receptions down. So the ground numbers will probably stay roundabouts what they were. He's still going to be the guy in the red zone. It's just that now he's not going to get the third down work that he had. The way they're going to sprinkle in ETN is going to be very interesting. I mean, they keep mentioning the Kamara role. That's great. Everybody mentions the Kamara role. But if they wanted to preserve ETN anyway, a 20 touch a game was definitely going to be his ceiling anyhow. So I feel like this is going to be a classic timeshare where both are still valuable.
All right, Rob, you are on the clock at 11.
I got sniped. I'm feeling a little gross right now. I wanted to take ETN here. With ETN off the board, I think it's a bunch of wide receivers I'm looking at, and then the last quarterback who I think has starting upside for years to come in the NFL. I don't like taking Mac Jones here, but I'm going to take Mac Jones.
I love the instant regret. It's something that has happened to me often in my life. Brendan, what was the last thing you regretted doing?
Oh, let me think to about
Don't answer that.
1,000 times today.
Go on.
No,
I'm just kidding. This isn't like some sort of therapy.
No, you know what? I said Philip Lindsay is still in Denver. That was the last thing I regret.
How do you feel about Mac Jones? How many games does he start this year?
So I mentioned this earlier, and because this is Dynasty, I'm not really concerned with how many games a rookie quarterback plays. However, I do think he plays relatively soon because by all reports, he's a pretty smart guy. And I think it should be this way for rookie quarterbacks. It's not about the guy in front of him. It's just about him. You took him in the first round. He'll start whenever he's ready, which I think should be soon, by week, I'm guessing within 4 or 5, at 6 at most. So I think you'll get most of the fantasy season with him being able to plug into your lineup. However, I'm probably staying away from him in most rookie drafts just because of the limited rushing ability.
My concerns with Mac Jones are less Cam Newton in front of him. It's Bill Belichick's notoriously difficult playbook that's made many a Pro Bowl wide receiver retire rather than waste their time learning it. And it's a bunch of jags that he has surrounding him on offense. I don't like any of the receivers, any of the running backs. He doesn't have a single superstar to rely on. He's probably instantly the best offensive weapon they have, and that's not something I like to say about my rookie quarterback.
With a dad bod.
With a dad bod.
All right, Matthew. It's up to you. Finish out the first round.
Well, if he had fallen, I would have taken Mac Jones here, who I like to refer to as Mr. Alex Moran from Blue Mountain State, if you've ever seen that show. But he didn't. So now I'm kind of looking at receivers. There's not really any running backs I like here. I know I have some probably people screaming at me, Trey Sermon. But San Francisco's notorious for having a running back by committee, and I'm not that high on Trey Sermon anyway. So then it pretty much brings me down to the Alabama receivers. We got Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle has a pretty nice opportunity with the Dolphins, reunited with Tua. Devontae Smith, he's going to immediately be the Eagles' best receiver. But he's going to have Hurts throwing in the ball. Personally, I'm going Devontae Smith. I have him higher on my board than Jalen Waddle. Yes, Hurts might be throwing him the ball for 1 year, but I'm not too high on Hurts' future with the Eagles unless he drastically improves in accuracy. And I just believe Devontae Smith is the better fantasy option. That's not to say Jalen Waddle's not going to be electric with the ball, not going to make plays. But as far as fantasy options, I think Devontae Smith is going to be the guy.
All right, let's recap that first round. We had Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields as the first three players off the board, followed by Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, and Jamar Chase. At 7, Zach Wilson. 8, Javonte Williams. At 9, Kyle went with Rashad Bateman, followed by Travis Etienne. Rob took Mac Jones begrudgingly, and we ended the first round with Devonta Smith, selected by Matthew. Don, what was the most surprising first-round pick there?
The surprising thing in the top 12 was, if I had to think about it and I had to just say it outright, for me, it's that Najee wasn't 3. I think that the value of a running back instantly is just so high, and that he is going to be 2/3 of the Steelers' offense with no competition whatsoever left on the roster. I'm actually a little surprised the Steelers didn't invest 2 picks in running back, because what talent is there is, well, calling it talent is polite, so we'll do that. Take the high road here. But yeah, I think Najee's just going to be everything, and so many of the other guys just landed in weird situations. I thought ETN was going to be really high. He ended up in a weird spot. So I think that taking Fields there at 3 and not the running back is just a little off to me.
Brendan, who deserved to be in the first round and missed?
I think Jalen Waddle deserved to be in the first round and should have gone ahead of 2 receivers that were. I think he already has this connection with Tua. I think Tua is able to pass deep and pass deep efficiently. We saw it at Alabama. For some reason, he went away with it. I think that reason is because the talent wasn't there. They've added Will Fuller. Now they take Jalen Waddle. I think Tua's going to be firing on all cylinders with a bunch of new targets.
All right, Big Daddy, why don't you kick off round 2 with the pick number 13?
Things get interesting here at 13 because we're in an obvious spot where one guy is left that's going to be an obvious producer and the rest are in just really good spots. Like, I love the fit for Terrace Marshall in Carolina. I love the fit for Elijah Moore with the Jets, but I'm going Waddle here. You gotta. Waddle is just absolute electric. Every time he touches the ball, he's going to get fed the rock there in Miami, and he's something different than the rest of the wide receiver core they have. So he's the dynamic guy with a career 21.1 yards per reception coming out of college. The guy is just instant highlight and only needs 3 or 4 before he's scored you a bunch for the week. So I'm going to take Waddle here and be pretty happy to get him.
Can't argue with that, and either will Brendan. Brendan, who do you take at 14?
So I'm going to stay with the receivers here, and some of you may call it a reach. I am comfortable with this selection. JJ, I'm going to take your new receiver, Elijah Moore, new Jets weapon, new Zach Wilson weapon. And I really like what the Jets did with this draft because they went Zach Wilson, second overall, obviously. After that, their next 3 picks, they traded up again in the first round for an offensive guard tackle, we'll see, and then Elijah Moore, and then Michael Carter, a running back. So they took a rookie quarterback and then surrounded him with an offensive lineman and 2 weapons to help him out. Jamison Crowder is in front of Elijah Moore right now. They've got Denzel Mims, who didn't show much of anything last year on the outside, and then Corey Davis, who I don't believe in at all on the other side. Jamison Crowder's getting up there in age, and I believe Elijah Moore can turn into the Tyler Lockett version. You know, Tyler Lockett can be that guy for Zach Wilson.
Kyle, you have pick number 15. Where are you going with 15?
Yeah, this is another one that as I said earlier, I'm kind of flip-flopping between positions here. I don't think it's quite Pat Freiermuth time. I'm not going to go QB because the team I'm drafting for took Fields in the first. So for me, it's going to come down between receivers and running backs. And I think I'm going to keep the Jets train rolling here. I'm going to take Michael Carter. The Jets at running back don't really have a lot going for him. You're not looking at LaMichael Pirine to take a whole lot of run away from Carter here. He's going to have a young quarterback that might be looking for a safety valve, and Carter can catch the ball and make things happen with it. I think he's a good fit for that offense, and I think he's got a lot to prove in fantasy this year.
I think when the Rule of Three pod did the landing spot, red light, green light, the Jets are a great landing spot, especially with what they're doing with the offensive line. Michael Carter is my RB3 right now for rookies in this class, just because there is no other back on the roster with skill. I don't worry about LaMichael Pirine in the slightest. I think they're going to run Michael Carter a lot. And they're going to run him so much, they got a spare.
As a safety valve, if you will.
Kit, go ahead. You can.
Thank you for that
get
layup.
that taste out of my mouth.
I'm happy that pick was made, because if not, I was going to be at the end of my tier. I like Michael Carter as a talent, and I like the landing spot, but he's a fourth-round running back who's barely 200 pounds. Like, I think that's going to be some sort of annoying split. Like, yeah, he could catch 50 passes, but I don't see him getting major attempts. So, hey, different opinions are great. Now I get to get my guy. I'm going to take Rondale Moore here. So the two Moores were kind of neck and neck with me. Very happy to get Rondale Moore. I know there's concerns. Obviously, he hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently since he was a freshman. He's very weird in that he's a burner and all of his targets are within 10 yards. And it works for his skill set. But I could see them getting fun and creative with him there in Arizona. Obviously, the defenses aren't going to be able to really key in on him because they have the Hopkins and I guess whatever you think of Kirk, and now AJ Green. But I just think he has an opportunity, and halfway through the second, I'm looking at upside. He could just be one of those guys who's just a freak and ends up being awesome.
So you're more worried about Michael Carter's weight than Rondale Moore's height, correct? Because I don't think he's hit his growth spurt yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that, like, I think generally running back weight is more important for taking a pounding, but 5'7" is just ridiculous, so it could definitely be a concern for Moore.
And he is the only receiver in this draft that will be able to see eye to eye with Kyler Murray.
There you go.
You were waiting for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm on a roll. Keep it going, JJ.
I don't even know what to say. Rob, I'm just going to let you make the next pick at 17.
If I don't think this will shock anyone who's paid attention to me in the group chats, I'm taking my guy Terrace Marshall Jr. here. He's my wide receiver 4. I think a lot of mistakes were made in front of me, and I'm happy to get him here. It's great value. I was getting very worried as the second round dragged on. He had some first round hype. Right before the draft, some news came out. There's some concerns about his foot injury that he sustained LSU's championship year. He lands here with Joe Brady, his offensive coordinator, I guess his offensive advisor. I don't remember exactly what his role was at LSU, but he lands here with Carolina's offensive coordinator. He was very familiar with him, very familiar with the injury, not concerned at all. He takes him here in the second round, and I get my current wide receiver 4, who I had pre-draft wide receiver 3 at great value here late or halfway through the second round.
Yeah, pre-draft we had Terrace Marshall coming in around wide receiver 6, which is where he goes in our draft. Brendan, are you concerned about the injury, or should we just brush it off like Rob said?
No, I'm willing to brush it off. The Panthers were willing to use a high pick on him, so am I.
Yeah, just to let you all know, I am jumping on the Panthers bandwagon this year. It is now announced. I I'm so happy Sam Darnold, like seeing them pick these weapons, like Sam Darnold must be so ecstatic sitting there and seeing like what's coming his way. I think he's going to have a very good year this year, and I want to see that only because he had to go through the hell of Gase along with the rest of us fans. Finishing out the top half of the second round, Matthew at pick 18.
This is where I believe it gets pretty interesting with rookie drafts. So far, I haven't been really surprised with any of our picks. People could argue the order and stuff like that, but I feel like this is everyone's top 17 picks. I wish Michael Carter had fallen to me. Like they said, the opportunity is there. I wish Rondale Moore had fallen to me. Would have been really nice to have the running back 1 in Arizona. But Terrace Marshall would have been nice as well. Now, if you followed me, then you know that I'm going Diami Brown here. I think he's electric. He's had a good position. I know people argue with me that Curtis Samuel's the wide receiver 2 and stuff like that, but I don't like Curtis Samuel. I think Diami Brown immediately jumps him on the depth chart. Logan Thomas isn't really anything to write home about. We see it a lot where a tight end will have one great season and then kind of falls off. So I'm going Diami Brown. He's going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick chucking him the ball this year, which is going to be quite fun. They're going to be trying to get a quarterback for the future. When that'll happen, who knows? But I think he's going to be a nice addition behind Terry McLaurin there, who's going to be soaking up most of the defense for him.
Now, Kyle, this year we saw a lot of wide receivers following their former QBs onto their NFL teams. What are the chances that next year the Washington football team takes Sam Howell to pair with Diami Brown, goes in the opposite direction?
I don't know. Howell seems like he's going to be the 101 next year in real drafts, but I don't know that the Washington football team's defense is, or I think that they are going to be too good for them to lose enough games to get that pick. I think they'll be picking too late in the draft for him to even be a thought unless they can trade up.
I'm with you, Kyle. I would have thought that this year was the year for them to mortgage the farm and throw draft picks to get up there because they are just loaded at every position. Now, I love the Jamin Davis ad for their defense, but I thought this was the time to be bold and go for a quarterback, especially when Fields started to drop. I know our buddy Eric here was a little heartbroken that it was the Bears who decided to bear down and go up instead of the football team.
Yeah, when Fields started dropping, they said the 3 teams that should be on the phone were Washington, Chicago, and New England, and I was biting my fingernails waiting for it, and I saw Chicago traded up, and I knew. I was like, there he goes. And sure enough.
There he went. All right, to recap the top half of the second round, we have Jalen Waddle, followed by Elijah Moore. Keeping up the Jets trend, Kyle went with Michael Carter, followed by the Moore brother, Rondale. Rob went with, of course, his boy, Terrace Marshall, followed by Diami Brown. At pick 19, Matthew, who do you want for the second half of your back-to-back?
This is where it's tough. Looking here, if you would have told me before the draft Kenny Gainwell would still be available mid-second round, I would be jumping on that. However, Eagles aren't a great landing spot. He went 5th round. He's the clear backup there. The quarterback's not going to be probably passing to the running back a lot, so he's kind of out. I kind of went over Trey Sermon earlier. I'm not a huge fan of his, and I know the running back seems great there, but it's going to be a running back by committee. There's never going to be one that jumps to elite running back 1 status. So, and then a whole bunch of receivers that are still left that just don't hit the mark for me. So I guess if it was me, I'm going Pat Freiermuth here. I don't particularly love taking a tight end this early, but as we said, in most drafts, he's probably going at the tail end of the first round in rookie drafts. it's Kyle Pitts that's dropping him lower. The Steelers are a fairly good landing spot. Eric Ebron isn't that great of a tight end. Yeah, he makes some plays. He has a lot of drops.
Free agent next year too.
Yeah, I'm taking this pick, not really worrying about this year. I think Pat Freiermuth becomes that tight end over time that people want on their team.
All right. Rob Mongol with 20.
Matthew just stole the last guy in my tier. I'm a little upset about that. Somehow most of the guys in my next tier are already gone. I'm looking at Trey Sermon, Kadarius Toney, and Amari Rogers here. I really hate Kadarius Toney. He's probably the last person I'll take here. He's only survived this far because he's a first-round draft pick. Maybe the Giants know more than I do. I really don't like him. Amari Rogers, immediate wide receiver 2 for Green Bay, I think. But there's still a lot of wide receivers to come. I'd be happy with a lot of the guys that can get in the 3rd round here. So I'll pull the trigger on Trey Sermon. I think Trey Sermon at the 49ers, exactly like some people have alluded to, it can be a gross backfield. You never know who Shanahan wants. He can change between drives, between quarters. The breeze could blow the wrong way. Who knows? Trey Sermon could be, 25 touches one week, 1 touch the next week. It's a risk I'm willing to take. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got draft capital. When Shanahan was in Atlanta, it was a 2-headed monster, and I'm hoping that we get back to that in San Francisco, and that Trey Sermon gets at least 12 to 15 touches a game, and
It's
maybe
funny to
grows
me,
on
Rob,
that.
how Kyle Shanahan has one QB who does well every once in a while, and that's the best landing spot in the world for a QB to go. But he always has good running backs, and they take a running back early. Everybody's like, forget about what about Trey Sermon? Trey Sermon landed in a fantastic position. The only reason why they have to go to multiple backs is because their backs are always hurt. Right? That's why you get to RB4 in San Francisco.
People just didn't like Trey Sermon's talent before the draft, and they're trying not to overcorrect. Like, I didn't see anything too exceptional. I had Gainwell and Hill above him. So, like, I get the pushback, and I do think there's a path there, right? I mean, it's the reason why he's ended up here in the 2nd. But, yeah, I didn't see anything particularly special on tape, and I feel like they do have some inclination to move it around and use different types of backs based on the scheme they're playing in that particular play.
In a vacuum, Devonta Freeman doesn't have the most talent, in the league. But when he was in Atlanta that one year, he had a fantastic year with Kyle Shanahan calling the shots.
That's definitely fair.
All right, Kit, 21.
Well, I'm in a similar position Rob kind of mentioned, where I'm past the guys who I really like their talent. There might be some exceptions, but those dudes went in like the 5th, and so you can't really be doing that. So I'm looking at a couple guys who looks like they have good situations, right? And I'll just say them all. It's Toney, it's Nico Collins, it's Amari Rogers, who look like they have a path to be regular contributor pretty early on. And I'm just going to go on draft capital because I didn't love any of them. A little bit of a sweet spot in my heart because Toney is on the Giants now, so I'm hoping they do know something we don't, Rob. So we'll go with Kadarius Toney. Not expecting to start him in Dynasty year 1, but hoping he can be one of those guys who kind of comes along and his just elite athleticism ultimately allow him to succeed.
Every year there's one offensive player that I know I will not have a share of. Kadarius Toney is that player. Kyle, 22.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney is I think the 6th year in a row that somebody has been compared to Tyreek Hill when he gets drafted. He gets drafted every single year, I swear. For me here, yeah, like Kit was just saying, you kind of look at draft capital, you look at landing spot, and you look at opportunity. There's guys that I'm like, should I roll the dice on? Then there's guys that I was like, I really liked them before the draft, and then they ended up places where I was like, dang. Like, I really thought Chuba Hubbard was going to be the steal of this draft, and then he ends up in the Panthers. I'm like, he's really going to be competing with CMC? No, thank you. Kenneth Gainwell going to be sharing snaps with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders can't even get RB1 snaps when he was by himself. So for me, I think I'm going to quasi roll the dice on Amari Rodgers with the Packers. And by roll the dice, I mean we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. Do I really think he's going to go anywhere? No, I don't. But there's still a little bit of inherent risk with that just because we really don't know what's going on in Green Bay right now.
That is correct. We do not know. But if A. Rodgers is still there, the other A. Rodgers will definitely be going in the first 2 rounds.
And how
of your
confusing
rookie
will
drafts.
that be when we have a Wildcat touchdown pass from Amari to Aaron? Can't wait.
That's a unicorn
He
right
did
there.
it again.
He does it every time. Brendan, you are up, sir, with the penultimate pick in our draft, round 2, pick 23.
At this spot, I am not looking for somebody I can rely on, but instead I'm looking at somebody who might be able to win me a few games. And that guy to me is Dwayne Eskridge. I say this because David Moore is now in Carolina. Have fun with D Moore and DJ Moore. Maybe you can pull a fast one on somebody and, trade the wrong guy to him. But Dwayne Eskridge lands in an offense that Russ likes to throw it deep. He likes to throw it, if it was up to him, he'd like to throw it a lot. But he's very tough. He's very fast. I made the Elijah Moore comparison to Tyler Lockett earlier. I'm going to kind of make this one now. He's not exactly a perfect comparison, but, some similar traits. He was their first pick of this draft. They took him in round 2. So that shows you how much they like him. Jacob Hollister is gone as well, so it's not a ton of targets, but between Moore and Hollister, it's enough. Olsen as well. Greg Olsen's gone. So if he can be, Russ's wide receiver 3, Tyler Lockett will be 29 this year. I'm happy to take the flyer on Dwayne Eskridge.
In my pipeline league, I do have Western Michigan, and Dwayne Eskridge is a proud member of the Chapman Quarry. Don, you get the honors of finishing off this bad boy.
Ugh, blah. Looking around, you're right. We said it a bunch. Bad situations for good players and things that just aren't going to go any better. I mean, do you want Hunter Long, the second tight end in Miami? Do you want Amon-Ra St. Brown, the best, I guess, wide receiver because he's like the only one in Detroit? Or do you want to take a flyer at like Jalen Darden and hope that he's the next guy, that little receiver that Brady just ends up loving? With the crew and the pile of things that are left, I'm going to close it down with Davis Mills, and here's why. We have a starting quarterback, probably, because it turns out that Watson's a scumbag, and it turns out that they had to get somebody. This dude came out of high school as a five-star recruit, has the big arm, isn't especially mobile, but good enough, and isn't especially accurate, but more than good enough to go to Stanford. So he's intelligent enough to pick up the offenses, and you know what? If you're playing in a league that's best ball or something and you just need a dude, maybe he blows up one week and that gets you through everything. So you can never have enough starting quarterbacks. And for a guy with the pedigree, long run, who knows, maybe get lucky.
It's always worth a dart throw. All right, to recap our second round, we had Jalen Waddle, Elijah Moore, and Michael Carter going in the top 3 picks, followed by Rondale Moore, Terrace Marshall, Diami Brown at 2-6, followed by Pat Freiermuth, Trey Sermon, Kadarius Toney, Amari Rodgers, Dwayne Eskridge, and then Davis Mills. Rob, which player should have been picked in these first 2 rounds that everybody is going to regret not picking?
The only player on the board that was not taken, that was in my top 24 here, is Hunter Long. I believe in the talent. I think he's going to get some targets in Miami. Tight ends take a while to develop. It's definitely gross for the first 2 years. He's going to be, the 5th option on the team fourth option on the team at best, but I believe in the talent. I think he will eventually be the tight end one in Miami, even if it takes 2 years. And he has everything I want out of a tight end. He blocks well. He's going to stay on the field more than, what's his name from Penn State, who's down there currently?
Gesicki.
I don't know. I can't think of his name. Gesicki. Mm-hmm. I don't think Gesicki's as good of an athlete as his combine testing suggests, and Hunter Long is exactly that. He's an athlete. He blocks. He's got reliable hands.
You're singing my song, brother. You're singing my song. Kit, I'll give you the last one. Who should have gone in this round who didn't?
Oh, geez. Should have gone in this round who didn't. I mean, I'm still reeling a little bit from what I see as a very negative NFL draft in regards to fantasy outcomes, right? And so there's a bunch of guys like Tylan Wallace, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I liked their talent, but they went later, and they went to situations where they might not have even been the first receiver that their team picked. I guess I'm going to say Nico Collins. I do think there's too much disrespect on Brandon Cooks right now. He is a solid primary option for them, and I know their quarterback situation is sort of unknown, but Collins is the type of guy. He's big, he goes up and gets the ball, maybe whether it's Tyrod or Davis Mills is kind of chucking it to him. I think he could be a guy who got much more draft capital than I expected, and I'm a little intrigued about it. They're looking at guys who still are fun here.
All right. Well, I think that was a successful draft. One of the things that we always look for when we do mock drafts is just to get an idea of what to expect when you're on the clock. There is nothing worse than being on your draft and not knowing what to expect. Make sure you're doing some mock rookie drafts. Find a simulator, jump on, run through a few. Sign up for a couple free ones on Sleeper. You can find mock drafts everywhere. Do the work. Find out who is going to be available at your pick and be an educated drafter. Gentlemen, it is time for tags. Let the riders know where they can find you and any final thoughts that you have. Matthew, you can kick us off.
You can finally find me mostly on Twitter at Fantasy Ferret. It's my account that I dedicated to my ferret that died a few months back. I did want to give a shout out to Jonathan Adams, who's an undrafted free agent for the Lions, who is going to be the wide receiver 1 for them. So take him in the 4th round and be happy.
I love it. Brendan.
I am on Twitter at BCTAF. That's TAFFE. And my last thing here, if you haven't gotten vaccinated, just go do it.
Amen. Rob.
You can find me on Twitter and Reddit at the RoDoRob. And my final thoughts are turning it to JJ for a question here. Kenny Yeboah or Chris Herndon? Who do you have?
Oh, Chris Herndon.
Wrong take.
And Kenny
Wrong
Yeboah
take.
is a local kid. He went to Parkland. It's a very local school. And Temple. But no. Chris Herndon, easy. Kyle Allen.
Yeah, if you're looking for me on Twitter, you can find me at KAllen_4. And if you're looking for any of us, you can find us on Twitter at Ride or Dynasty. If you're looking for a mock draft, tweet at us. Hey, at Ride or Dynasty, I'm looking for a mock draft. We will tweet you out and find you some friends, some enemies, some frenemies, somebody on Twitter to get in a mock draft with you.
Absolutely. Kit.
Find me on Twitter at KitV_DynastyFF, or I'm on Reddit, trying not to be too argumentative at KitKit123. Had planned on working on a project about how defense affects QBs, but all my research came up with defense isn't as impactful for QB fantasy rankings, so I couldn't really write that article. So I'm probably going to be doing a winners and losers, both for current NFL players and drafted players as a draft recap article or something fun.
Looking forward to your next article. Don.
I hope you guys enjoyed the series of mock drafts this year, but for now, the social media Sasquatch is back in the cave until next year's draft sequence cycle. You may get some Devi updates and stuff, but for now, it's back into the box. If you're curious about a player and you just want to know, check your local beat writers for those teams. They have way better connections than the ESPN guys or the TSN guys or anywhere else you're looking. check the local beat writers for the local newspapers, The Athletic, or any local startups. They will have way better content for you and have a better outlook.
Thanks, Don. I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter and Clubhouse. Thank you to Matthew, Brendan, Robert, Kyle, Don, and Kit for joining me tonight and helping us do a mock draft. I am so appreciative of all the time you guys give to us. So thank you for giving me some time on a Saturday, on a lovely Saturday evening. From all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and remember, never say anything to make a meeting longer or cut a happy hour short. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.